Far Talk.
Welcome back, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. I want to put Peter Ferrara in a bottle and market him as genius. He's amazing, really is. And is that because you agree with him, Crane? Well, that, and when you disagree, he will always come back with another response, which is actually right on. He'll answer your question. And he's been there. He's been in the fight. If you're interested in that interview, I think we might be able to throw that into a best of at one point or another. But you'll also be able to go to afa.net/nothing but truth. Okay, big news today. And this actually was taking place yesterday, and learning about the fact that benefits for our fallen soldiers were being denied. Well, wait a second. Didn't the House pass legislation to take care of our military? Yes, they did. But lawyers reportedly who worked for the White House said that the benefits would not come under that legislation to be funded. That is being verified I believe that came from NBC was working on a report. It was reported on Fox today. My point is, the question on who denied the benefits and why it wasn't covered under this particular legislation that took care of our troops. Now, with that in mind, Jonathan Karl took great exception to Jay Carney today in the press conference when Carney said, hey, when we were told that they didn't qualify, the president was outraged, we immediately took action on it. And Jonathan Karl's sitting there going, in light of the fact that you've punished certain sectors, you've used the discretionary power to hold back veterans from being able to visit their sites. You've closed private parks. You've punished your enemies. Tell me, how does the commander-in-chief not know this? And this is kind of a follow-up of what he did. But here it is. Here's just part of an excerpt from the press conference. ABC's Jonathan Karl taking issue with Jay Carney's explanation. Roll it.
Briefings are taking place. I mean, there's clearly decisions made. How could there not have been a decision made that if there's anything that's essential, it would be taking care of those who lost loved ones in the field of battle?
And so the Department of Defense informed Congress that this would be a consequence among many other consequences, and it wasn't. Well, John, look, I mean, again, if you want to editorialize, Commander-in-Chief, when he found out that this was not addressed, he directed that a solution be found, and we expect one today. So I think that's
until yesterday that this was not being addressed?
I think I've just been pretty clear about the process here. Congress was informed, as it was informed of all of the consequences of shutdown, and
and that's really interesting. Now, Donald Rumsfeld was asked about this because the Pay Our Military Act did not provide a specific appropriation for benefits. It was reportedly, and this is through David French of the National Review Online, left ambiguous enough that the Department of Defense has room to interpret the terms of pay and allowances. But here's what Donald Rumsfeld, former Secretary of Defense, had to say regarding this. Roll it.
Isn't that ugly?
It is. It's inexcusable. I just can't imagine a decision-making process that would produce those outcomes. It's so unfair to the families, to the veterans, to the soldiers.
But the other thing too is that the $100,000 death gratuities, I hate that word that they used, they pay the families, that's being delayed too.
I'm not surprised. They're clearly picking and choosing what they want to do and making decisions that are, I suppose, fit their political philosophy.
Joining us now is a Gold Star wife who is currently on a bus tour that was launched last Friday for 3 weeks across a dozen states from Nevada to the East Coast, a platform for military veterans, their families and friends, and all patriotic families to tell their stories and explore ways to continue fighting freedom here at home. The tour includes dozens of stops in Nevada, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, and North Carolina. And it's about getting veterans involved. Jane's husband died on September 9th, 2011, and his name was Christopher Horton. Jane Horton, Gold Star wife, from Concerned Veterans for America, joins us now. Jane, thank you for your time. Where are you today?
Right now, we are just leaving Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we have a long 17-hour drive down to New Orleans.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time. This is deeply troubling, and I don't know if you were able to hear some of what the White House's response to the denial of death benefits in light of the fact that Congress had passed Pay Our Military Act, and it was signed. So here is Jay Carney, and here's Jay Carney responding to a question from Jonathan Carl earlier when asked about these benefits. Roll it.
In serving our country, you said that the White House knew that this problem would be there in the event of the shutdown.
The Department of Defense informed Congress, so Congress knew about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Congress knew about it. The White House knew about it. The President is the Commander-in-Chief. He's the Chief Executive. Was there literally nothing that he could do to ensure that these families are taken care of?
He's doing it today, John, because it was not addressed by Congress in the Pay Our Military Act.
Did he
it was
ask
not
Congress to take care of it in the Pay Our Military Act?
John.
Were there any discussions there?
John, the Republicans shut the government down. None of this would be an issue if the government were open. Okay. 2, Department of Defense, as every agency did, warned Congress of the myriad consequences of shutdown. This is one of those consequences. Unfortunately, it was not explicitly addressed in the Pay Our Military Act. I'm not assigning blame for that, but it wasn't. The President learned that this had not been addressed. He directed the OMB and his lawyers to find a solution, and they're working on that, and we expect one today.
Jane, do you accept the response from the White House in regard to the denial of these benefits?
I think that there could have definitely been more of an immediate action taken. It's just an outlandish thing that's happened here. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the survivor community feels very betrayed over the whole issue, and I think that there definitely could have been something more urgent done about it.
With the unbelievable insensitivity that this shows, people say, let's not make it about R's or D's, but where does the buck stop in your estimation when it comes to these decisions?
I think that there's not one place to point a finger. I think everyone's to blame. I think the fact that our country is in such disarray right now and everyone's fighting over everything, one of the most sacred and vulnerable groups in America was forgotten about and slipped through the cracks. And to be honest, I hold the American people accountable. I think that we, as Americans, our government is a reflection of us. And I know that's a very bold statement, especially now when our government is a disaster. But I think that it's up to us to make sure that we hold our government accountable and such things like these do not happen.
When we have soldiers still fighting, we're still at war, and we have situations where they're being killed by the people they train. We have a president that has outlined and said he's ended the war in Iraq and he's ending the war in Afghanistan. And it seems to me that, as you said, there's not a focus on the people that are bringing us and defending our freedom. What you're doing right now is to change that, isn't it? To bring a focus to the people that are still fighting. And what do you hear when you hear somebody say, we've ended the wars, and you don't hear a weekly press conference, which I believe should take place, President Bush or President Obama, whomever is president, bottom line, a weekly press conference on the war fronts, and our progress or lack thereof. Tell me, what do you think the country needs to do to put a greater focus on those who are fighting for our freedom?
I think Americans are very tired of these wars. Most of them don't even know that we're still at war. So I think it's definitely a necessity that they need to start paying closer attention, and it's not at the forefront of the news every day. You know, the casualty count isn't across our TVs at night. So Americans today are very disconnected from it. But I think that leads to the whole problem that with these wars winding down and people are not necessarily connected with the issues of veterans or those of the families of the fallen. I think that's why this bus tour is so influential, and we're all so excited to be on it and go across the country and tell people about freedom and how so many veterans have fought for their country overseas so valiantly, but it can't stop there. You know, we have a country that we have to continue to fight for here on the home front.
What's the response been from the places you visited?
It's been incredible. We've gotten great responses. We have great people on board. We have Colonel Steve Russell, who was one of the commanders that commanded the battalion that captured Saddam Hussein. And we have a Kiowa helicopter pilot on board, Amber Barno. And, you know, people love all the variety of stories and hearing from us. And people do. They want to organize and get together and do what they can for their country. So it's kind of giving them that mechanism to move forward with.
The importance of going out and connecting with you all as you're making this bus tour, this is an opportunity to not only honor you and those that, when I think of the military, I think their families serve, obviously, of one person serving, their entire family serving in some way, in some capacity. But it's also important, as you just mentioned, with these heroes, for education, isn't it?
Very much so. You know, when my husband was deployed, I remember being asked if he got to come home on the weekend or if I got to go visit him in Afghanistan. Like, this country is very connected from its wars, and it's very important that we pay attention because not only are veterans coming back with major issues, you know, but their families are dealing with a lot of stuff as well, and the VA backlog is a huge issue right now, as well as the national debt and several other things that the country just needs to pay attention to, and we need to rally behind our veterans and make sure that those that are willing to defend their country, to volunteer to protect us, are taken care of as we promised them.
Do you know if these families that have been impacted by the lack of payment and coverage of their benefits, have they been taken care of? Has it been remedied? Has it been taken care of today? Do you know if that's taken place?
I'm sure it has been. I'm sure that, you know, the Fisher House has stepped up. Apparently the government and the military has signed a contract with the Fisher House to pay the funds, and I know Donald Trump spoke up today saying that he would pay it, but that's not the point. You know, the damage is already done. The survivor community just feels so broken right now. Many of my friends can't even talk about it without crying. It's just that we could never imagine that our country would ever go there. Our husbands don't have a vote. Our husbands and sons and daughters can't protect us. You know, they die defending their country, expecting that their families would be taken care of in the event of death. And here these families were handed a flag on behalf of a grateful nation, but they're not going to help pay for the hero's funeral costs or pay for the mortgages or the food or what the family needs.
What can we do? We have, for example, we work with veterans organizations. We highlight them. The Valhalla Group, for example, Colonel Kukulu is our regular guest, speaking to national security affairs, but that's what he's dedicated his life. I know there's the Mission Continues. I know that we have Faith Comes by Hearing and military Bible sticks that we're working with. Tell me, you have the ears and eyes of the listeners right now, and they want to help. What can they do right now to speak to the survivors, help the survivors, families, and veterans overall? What's a call to action here?
A call to action, there's several things you can do. First of all, you can read some of the stories of the fallen and find out who they were. They were actual people in the country that had stories, that had families. And you can physically families yourself. Yes, there's great organizations that you can donate to that do stuff for us, but just the actual action with us is crave the most. People that actually come to us or just say, hey, we want to hear daughter, can I kids for the weekend? How can I help you? You know, if you know a Gold Star family, see how you can help, or ask a local USO if there's a Gold Star family in the area. Many people think that we're overwhelmed with help, but we're actually underwhelmed because so many people think that others are helping us, and there's actually not that many. That's one thing that can definitely be done. Also, you know, pay attention to your country. Make sure this never happens again. You know, hold our leaders accountable for taking one of the most vulnerable and sacred populations in the country and doing this to them, our nation's heroes that have volunteered to defend our country. So those are my 2 call to actions that I would definitely say. But if you know a Gold Star family, just be there for them, see what you can help them with, and just for emergencies, like on nights whenever the faucet breaks. You know, those are the nights that we get the most upset. We're very strong people. We're very self-sufficient. We can handle a lot of things, but it's those times when we really just wish we had our husbands around that would mean the most to us.
Defend Freedom Veterans Bus Tour. Jane Horton, Gold Star wife and part of Concerned Veterans for America. I'm going to post it on the Facebook, and I know people are going, when can we do this? But they can get involved. And as you said, it's not just when the bus tour is going. This is a call to action for each and every one of us to get involved and recognize, don't count on other people doing it, and hold our government to account. Jane, you've made time for us tonight. It is an honor to speak with you. God bless.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.